Hey everyone. A month ago, I spoke about this Android skin. I published a video called A Look at Magic OS on the Honor Magic 7 Pro, which is this phone. And I received a comment from one of my long term subscribers and commenters. Evil Gauge said, really nice and useful skin. I love that drag and drop share feature. I see you still haven't switched to gesture navigation yet. You should, so that you can gain that extra space taken by the buttons. So that's what I'd like to talk about in this video. I'd like to talk about gestures on an Android phone. Now, gestures are not new. We've seen gestures in the world of iOS, iPhones, and you see I've got an iPad here. You can see my son was playing with lots of games. But yeah, when they removed the home button on iPads and iPhones, they really did increase the number of gestures that were available. And gestures really are just a way to interact with the screen doing something, like in that previous video, I showed that you can do like a knuckle kind of circle to highlight something and copy it, etc. But what Evo was talking about was the way that I navigate, because right now you can see I'm not using the traditional navigation system. So as I'm sure you're aware, when Android first came out, when Android phones were available, all the buttons were hardware. You had 3 physical buttons for back, for home, and for opening the task manager like that as well. But you can see I'm using gestures here, and you can see if I click through, I can go back using a gesture. Now, the key thing to know is that I'm using an Honor phone here, but there doesn't seem to be any real standard gesture system on Android that I'm aware of. I've seen many different Android phones, and they've all got their own kind of feel for gestures, their own customization, their own method of doing gestures. On this phone, you can see there's a few different options here when you select gestures instead of the 3 keys. And if you select 3 keys, you can choose one of these variations of where the back button and the home button, etc. go. But with gestures, what I like about this is there's a few different options here. There's a navigation dock option there as well. But what I like about it is that they've got a way to show you how to do it. There's a tutorial here that shows you how it works. So if I just go through this tutorial, it will explain how these gestures work better than I can. I have been using this for a month. I switched to this just after that comment because I didn't want to try it. And after this, I'll talk about my experience with it. So you can see here, swipe inward from the left edge. You do it, I went back. Swipe inward from the right edge. And with both of these, left or right, you can go back, essentially. Now we've got swipe up from the bottom of the screen. Nice. Swipe up from the bottom of the screen and hold, like that. You've completed the tutorial. So quite simple there, but that's the gestures. You can hold up there, you can see the different apps, etc. And if you go into any page, you can go back. Well, obviously you hold it to bring out the app manager, the kind of app sidebar. But you can go through, back, go back again. Now, what I would say about this is that I'm sure many of you were like me. You just hadn't used gestures just because, well, you just used the default option. And that's kind of what happened to me. I wasn't using the old navigation system because that's my preference. It was just because that's what I always done. Bizarrely, I didn't miss the navigation when I was using an iPhone previously, but with Android, I just kind of reverted back to the 3-button layout. But I'm glad Evo posted that comment because I have really got used to it, to the point where now when I've got my work phone and I have to use the 3 navigation buttons, it feels like a backward step. There's a few reasons why I've grown to love the navigation options and why I found it useful. I think the biggest thing really is speed. Just speed as far as using your phone. Just so easy to go back. And the other thing here, as you can see here, is that I found it to be very, very easy to use it one-handed in comparison to the 3-button navigation. So if I'm browsing my phone like this, I don't have to go down to here, do some kind of thumb gymnastics here to go down to the bottom. I can just go back like that. Or if I'm holding the phone like this, I can go back this way. And that's one of the key things about it. I don't think this is any easier or harder than doing it with the button. But certainly, going home, just doing that is really straightforward. Going back, using the gestures, I've become accustomed to it now. And I'm glad Evo posted that because, in my opinion, since I've got used to the gestures, yes, there was a few days where I was like, I kept doing the wrong thing. But once you get used to those gestures, I am using the phone quicker. I'm using the phone more efficiently. And it's maybe not for everyone. Maybe some people will like the old navigation style with, the three buttons. But I've grown to love this gesture system. I'm using it a lot. And I can recommend it. If you've got an Android phone, if your Android phone supports gestures, I recommend giving it a try. Try the tutorial to give you a kind of overview of how it works. But if you just put it on and switch back to the button layout, you're not going to get used to it. You do need to spend a few days in it until it becomes natural, until it's, you're not even thinking about it. And that's the stage I'm at now. When I go into like my wife's phone or my own work phone, I forget I have to use the buttons. So that's my opinion on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, guys. I'm sure iOS users, iPhone users, iPad users, you're used to gestures already. But if you're an Android user, maybe you were like me and maybe you hadn't, jumped across to use gestures yet. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Give me your thoughts on using using gestures for navigation. I'd love to hear your opinion on it, guys. Post a comment below. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. And until next time, take care.